My name is Magda Olander, and I work with Brennan at the Cincinnati Interfaith Worker Center.
And my name is Samantha Searls, and I'm a program manager at IJPC.
And so, like Allison was saying, we're going to talk a little more about some of the concrete experiences that we've been having in the coalition in terms of the actual work that's happening, and the people that are involved. And so the coalition, it came together when all this energy was around because people were very concerned that our brothers and sisters in the community are going to get deported. So the primary kind of focus for a lot of people has been, how do we prevent deportations? How do we prevent unjust detentions and deportations? And how can we come together as a community to keep each other safe? And so there was this whole effort, a lot of energy around making the city a sanctuary city, and kind of enforcing these policies that have been developed with the local law enforcement agencies. And one thing that people really saw as a priority in terms of rapid response networks was being able to respond when workplace raids were happening, because this is something that in this area has happened in the past, has been kind of a main operating mode of rounding up lots and lots of people who work in the same shop because it's kind of an easy place to go and find them. And as the work was continuing, because of the way in which we're all connected with people who are working in the community directly with immigrants and being connected directly with our immigrant members of our organizations and our communities, we started seeing that it wasn't quite happening in the same way that it used to in the past. People were getting picked up over traffic stops, primarily. Traffic stops for things like driving over a yellow line, right? And were getting stopped, and when they were found to be driving without a license, they were being taken out of the station to be identified, and numerous reports were from people that had been taken down, were showing us that routinely the Hamilton County Justice Center was putting immigrants on the phone with ICE in order to issue warrants. There was one specific case that got a lot of energy riled up around it when we got a call from one of our community members about a union member who was picked up on a Sunday morning. We got the call a couple days later and kind of immediately set into action. So how can we intervene? And it really brought to light these traffic stops as a priority for our detentions and deportations committee that we're working in, and the issue of driving while Latino, and how do we come together as a team to make sure that driving while Latino isn't an offense that gets you deported. And so unfortunately, with the case of Oscar, it showed us how these things, it really taught us a lot about what's going on. It really made it a focus for us, and a lot of people rallied together. As soon as we got the call, more calls were made. There were a bunch of people that ran down to the sheriff's office and were knocking on doors. Some of our allies in the faith community really put a lot of energy into this. And we tried and found that it was too late to intervene, and unfortunately that case ended badly because we don't win all of our struggles. But being there for his sister, being in contact with people not only taught us a lot, but also really built some of these relationships and showed, I remember interpreting on the phone for his sister and her coming in and everything, and in the aftermath, of course, she was very sad that it happened the way that it did, but having the support in the community really meant a lot. And this is one of the really important things about what we do as a coalition is, we meet, we come together, and we work directly with people in our community that bring their stories to the table, and from those stories we learn things, and sometimes we're successful, and even when we're not, we draw things out of that to make sure that our work really reflects what the need is in the community. So out of that, comes all this work of saying, well, now we need to push for driver's licenses so that driving while Latino won't get you deported. We're looking into studying whether racial profiling, whether we can make a case to combat the racial profiling that's happening, because pulling people over for driving without a license is clearly something that you can't see when somebody is driving, whether they have a license or not. So this is clearly a case of profiling where we need to make sure that the local law enforcement can step up and fight that profiling that's happening. And really showing us also the need to better improve our rapid response. So a couple weeks later, another case happened that, drawing from some of the lessons of Oscar's case, we were able to intervene, and I'm going to ask Samantha to talk a little more about that.
Sure. So some of you may have heard about this case. Rixie from Northern Kentucky was down in Louisville to post bond for another immigrant. And when she was down there, the immigration agents asked about her status. And she said, well, I do have status. I have DACA. And they said that she did. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. We could go on a whole spiel about DACA today, but we want to focus on the work of the coalition. But they said she didn't have status, and they immediately detained her and moved her several times and actually purchased her ticket to deport her, I think, back to Honduras. All the while she had legal status to be here through the DACA program. And when we heard about this case, the coalition has a big network of lawyers and policy experts, and so they got involved, and we were already planning to go down to Mitch McConnell's office because she's one of his constituents to demand her release. And we immediately reacted, and that's something that it was learning from Oscar's case, and identifying where we can intervene and help, and then just doing it. So thankfully, Rixie's case ended up well. She was released back to her family, and is currently covered by DACA until it expires, which is why we need to pass the DREAM Act. But that's just one example of how a local community member had this threat, and we all just gathered our resources and came behind her and got her freed.
And knowing these things, knowing how the local law enforcement agencies, how ICE is interacting with individual cases, with individual reports, really also gave us an impetus to say, well, we need to meet with the people responsible, we need to create more transparency here, and we need to come to the table with a system that works so that folks can feel safe in their communities and can access the resources if they do need to call law enforcement without fear of themselves getting deported or getting in trouble for being undocumented if there's a threat in their community, which is a huge issue with the whole creating mistrust between local law enforcement and the local immigrant community. And so in that work, we've been meeting with the sheriff's office. We met with the local director, the area director of ICE, and are continuing to put pressure on those areas and in those places to make sure that the policies are transparent and that we're preventing these unjust and unnecessary deportations from happening. And the other part, of course, is being transparent and communicating out into the community the things they need to know is the know your rights piece. The more you know, the better you're equipped. One of the things about people reaching out to the network to get support is that they know that there is a network. They know that they have rights. They know that there are people they can contact, and then it kind of gets funneled through this whole big network of 27 different organizations and all of the people that are connected through the American Dignity Coalition. So we've created, coming out of the needs that people were having in terms of where they have rights and where they need to know about them, we created 3 different quick guides for people, and we're getting ready to turn those into trainings that we can have in the community, interactive trainings that people can take themselves and teach to their own community members, neighbors, co-parishioners. And so those are in the areas of schools, bullying, harassment, so how to make, making schools into safe places for our immigrant neighbors. In your home, so what to do when ICE comes to your door. And then in the workplaces, because those workplace raids are still on the radar, and in fact, it was confirmed, I think, last month that ICE is getting ready to ramp up the workplace raids again. And how these guides work is on one side, you get your basic know your rights kind of spiel that is a rundown of what are your basic rights as a citizen or as a non-citizen, as a community member here. But on the other side is a know your power session, because sometimes knowing your rights isn't enough. People trample all over people's rights all the time. Knowing how to enforce them, knowing how to enact those rights and exercise these rights that we have is really key. So on the flip side, there is a Know Your Power segment that describes ways in which we can come together as teams. We can come together with our neighbors, with our coworkers, and make sure that these places that we are, that we take steps to prepare ourselves and to prepare our communities with policies and best practices to enhance the safety of our communities. So we're really excited. We actually just finalized those, and we're getting ready to spread those out into the community and go out with those trainings. And
we actually have 2 of the 3 guides here today. If you want to take one with you or take some with you, as you leave, she's going to hold them up real quick. We have the one about the know your rights at home and in your community, and then we have the one about the workplace. And sadly, I ran out of time to print off the school one, but that does exist if you want that resource. So just to transition back and to invite these other 2 up here again, the work of the Immigrant Dignity Coalition falls under 2 main umbrellas. The first of which is preventing deportations. So there's lots of like sub-issues and things that we're working on that are brought up by our members. And the second umbrella is bullying and harassment. So just under the deportations umbrella, Brendan, could you talk a little bit about the Mark ID and how we've been working with them to make it successful?